Unitarian Universalist Church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love, a love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service.
Arise, O souls, all arise.
Good morning. Hopefully you all are faring well with this interesting weather. My name is Sean. You're in this room with us today or online. We are glad you are here, and your presence enriches all of us and our time together. For those that don't know, we are a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Our tradition is it's like this big tent, right? It has a lot of room for all the beliefs and approaches to the questions that matter. And it is our values of inclusion, compassion, and justice that hold us together. And we seek to build this beloved community, making room for everyone and create needs are met. You may be new here this morning. Welcome. We know that your first time attending a church, you may want to keep a low profile, which, that's all right. Just check things out quietly. We are just glad that you are here. And if you are excited to be here and to let all of us know that you are, we invite you to raise your hand at this time. There you go. Thank you for enriching us all with your presence today. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart, you are welcome here. You are invited to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. We welcome you today. First, on the patio outside the lobby, we will close our season of holiday parties with our final Yule Bak, which it's inspired by Scandinavian traditions and will feature the burning of a small straw goat. The celebration continues inside with a light lunch. Visitors, please join us for some food, fun, and conversation. And then after lunch, the Board of Trustees will lead a town hall here in Bragg to discuss progress on their 3 major goals this year.
Welcome back. Welcome back to everyone here in Bragg Auditorium, and welcome in everyone who watches online. I hope that you and those that you love have made it safely through last Sunday's huge snowstorm. That you have kept warm in the cold, that you have had the help that you need to dig out. And thank you for understanding that we didn't want anyone, not you, our staff, the guest preacher, or the musicians, to risk being out in that storm, and that we decided to close church last week. While we have dug out from the snow, I want us to turn our hearts to everyone affected by the fires near and in Los Angeles. So much loss that I cannot comprehend it. And there is no consolation, really. Simply loss to bear and live through, and one day at a time somehow to rebuild thousands of lives. My colleague, the Reverend David A. Miller, wrote for This Morning, and then I slightly adapted. Like many things in the world, one thing can have many meanings. Fire can be a source of warmth and illumination. Fire can also blow in many directions and be a source of destruction, danger, and fear. The efforts, resources, and energy of the congregation and its people can also go in many directions. May we always strive to be that which uses the flame to illuminate the glowing spirit of this congregation. May we remember those who are suffering and both the danger and the good that can come from the heat of the flame. May we serve the mission of this congregation to use the flame of our faith to bring the transforming warmth of love and justice to our beautiful and hurting world. Sean, will you light the chalice?
We light our chalice this morning with words from the Reverend Dr. David Breeden. We tender this flame, opening the book, turning to a page yet to be written, opening a story yet to be told. May we fill this fresh page wisely. May we write a new story into being, and may we together inscribe the page with hope. Please stand as you are able and join in the affirmation of our covenant, then remain standing as we join together in song. Together we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
All that is
I believe that we have some young people at church with us this morning. And so I will invite you, if you are interested, to come up front and sit on the carpet. Hi. I got some questions for you guys. Hi. So, would you please sit on the floor so that you don't accidentally bang up against that? Thank you so much. What's one thing that you did this morning to get ready for church? You got dressed, Fiona? Fiona brushed her teeth. Maggie? Was that yours? Maggie brushed her hair. What else did people do to get ready this morning? Oh, I see a hand. Yeah? Wake up. You got to wake up to get ready for church. Yes. Uh-huh. Go ahead. He brushed his... Brushed teeth, got dressed, went to church. Okay, now Maggie's got another one. Ate breakfast. I did that too. Actually, I think I do these things, except my hair does not see a brush. Okay, what have you got, Margot? Get your shoes on. Yes. Okay, I've got more questions now. Did any of you think about what church was going to be like this morning? Or what you were going to do here? Did you think about that before you came? Yes. Yes? I raised my hand. You raised your hand? Okay.
Something that includes snow.
Okay, so the hope for something at church today would be something that includes snow. I get it. Okay, everybody's pretty excited about the snow. Did you have a response? Okay. Mm-hmm. Wondering if we could go outside. So I'm just letting you know, Melanie, what the popular opinion is. Do with it as you will. So when you get ready for something, you kind of have to think ahead. You got to kind of wonder things like, what will I need when I do this thing? Or do I know what it's going to be like? Or who is going to help me if I need help? So I want you to think about a time, grown-ups too, that something big and important happened that was going to be a change in your life. Think about this. Maybe you were going to go to a new school, or you were going to have a new teacher at school. Maybe your family was moving to a different house, or even a whole different place. Maybe you found out that you were going to have a sibling. Or maybe you were starting a new activity or to learn a new skill.
Well, I think my mom is gonna move out of the house that
Okay, so your family might be about to move. So I'm not asking you to tell your stories right now. I'm going to ask some questions. And if your answer is yes, grown-ups too, raise your hand. Okay, so raise your hand if it's yes. Were you afraid because you didn't know what it was going to be like? Were you afraid when something big was going to happen? Were you excited because it was new? Did you do something to get ready for that to be different? So when big things change in our lives, and I'm saying this to those of you who are young and to our elders, it helps if we think about it and then do things to help us get ready for that change. Because it can be scary when we don't know what is going to happen or what it's going to be like. So a few things that you might consider doing to get ready for things to be different. You could talk to someone you trust about how you feel about the big change. Because when you say things out loud, it somehow makes them less big. You could do something that you can touch, that helps you get ready. Like if you're going to school again, line up your new school supplies or pack what is most important for you to have in your own bag. You could make something or get a gift for someone else who is part of that change. You could also write down or draw what you hope it will be like, because it's important to think about the good things and not just the worries. You could also light a candle, even an electric one if your grown-ups don't want you handling fire. And when you turn it on, tell the world what you hope will happen, and remind yourself that whatever happens, you're going to be okay. And so I hope that you're going to get ready for the things even before they're about to happen. Because getting ready isn't just about putting on clothes and shoes and brushing your teeth. We get ready inside our hearts for what is going to happen. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and we will now sing you to your classes.
Good morning. Give me one moment. Good morning, friends. My name is Brian Doyle, and I am a member of the church, and I'm also a member of the Board of Trustees of this church, faithfully serving you. And this morning, I stand here humbly for really one of the most important parts of our service, which is to do the offering ask. Is it easy to stand up here to ask for money? Not really. But it is a service that I am proud to give and do for the board. And I want to start, I won't take up too much time, but I want to start with a little bit of a reminder of what this actually is. And thank you to UUA.org for this info. The offering is a ritual in Unitarian Universalist services that symbolizes transformation, interconnection, and UU identity. It's time to come together and say who we are and what we believe in. The money we collect is used to support congregational life, ministry, and faith development, as well as social justice efforts. The congregation democratically decides how the money is spent. Many congregations split the collection with other philanthropic causes, which we do many times per year. Not today. Today, this is just for us and our operating budget. So it helps us keep our doors open, and it also helps us move forward as chosen family members that we are, protected in a circle of covenant. So let us look forward and embrace our cherished post office with great acoustics. And I will now be happily asking to gratefully receive and accept the offering. Much love. And now please join me in the dedication of the offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
From the history, philosophy, and impact of transitional ministry by Margaret Cape. Images of paradise abound in creation stories and myths around the globe. Since humans began spinning stories, we've envisioned life beginning in hope and glory, and then something goes awry. In the Judeo-Christian heritage we share as Unitarian Universalists, the Bible tells a story set in the garden called Eden. There, the first humans are enticed by knowledge, and in choosing it, are wrenched from paradise. It's a clever tale. Without awareness and self-awareness and compelling desire, the story would end there. Instead, all of life followed. The insight captured in the loss of Eden echoes in our lives too. When you or I join a congregation, or when we join together with others to begin one, we invest it with deep hope. We hold close a vision of what it may be, and life intervenes. As the old saying goes, life is what happens when we are making other plans. Transitional ministry intentionally focuses on what we do when life happens and the future breaks open. Former transitions director for the Unitarian Universalist Association and minister here at All Souls in the 1990s, John Weston, writes, "When radical change is forced upon a congregation, often by the departure of a minister, the task is simple to name. It is to accept the change and move on to embrace the opportunities that change allows. This, naturally, is more easily said than done. Whatever the reason for a settled minister's departure, retirement, debilitating illness, death, a call to opportunity or obligation elsewhere, conflicts that fail to resolve, misconduct that destroys relationships, life has happened. Transitional ministry engages with the downsides and upsides of life of change. It builds a bridge from what was to what will be.
Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where I'm going to ask for y'all's help. When I signal to you, will you read the part that's on the screen? Okay? Litany for Becoming by Enfleshed. To become is a lifelong process. Nothing is constant, not even the self. We evolve in the midst of narratives meant only for some, and ways of being made narrow by fear and power. We must then have the courage to listen to the truth of our own lives, to the wisdom that comes from within, responding without resistance or need to control, but with welcome and curiosity. This is what ensures our becoming is an unfolding of our truest self. This lifelong labor cannot be carried out alone. It requires help. From friends and lovers, family, and creaturely companions who bear witness to what makes us come alive and say to us, listen, look, feel, pay attention to that.
This is loving and being loved.
Telling the stories, sharing in the memories, giving thanks for the relationships, understandings, and experiences past that have shaped us to this day.
This is loving and being loved.
Celebrating new beginnings that excite, holding risks together, leaning into unknowns with the promises of support and companionship.
This is loving and being loved.
Listening to the future, calling uniquely to each of us in the midst of all life's noise, helping one another find our place in the shared labor of collective life, supporting each other in what is the world's ache is asking from us.
This is loving and being loved.
To say for the first time, this is who I am. This is the truth of my body. This is what I know about myself. This is my name, and this is where my path is leading me. And to have it affirmed, have it heard, having it read, and then to say again and again as we change and as the world changes, and to have each proclamation greeted with an open-armed embrace.
This is loving and being loved.
In June 2022, life happened here at All Souls. You expected a new contract minister in the coming months. You expected Kendall's retirement in 2025. And still, life happened when Kendall suffered a stroke. The last 2.5 years have not been what any of us had anticipated. Just as the uncertainty of COVID began to recede, new uncertainty unfolded. So much uncertainty that you have been holding. What would Kendall's recovery be like? Who would lead the church? No matter what, it wasn't going to be the same. But how would it be different? And when would the uncertainty end? I wish that I could tell you that the uncertainty will be over tomorrow. that the church will miraculously know its future and have taken steps to bring exactly that into fruition. These last 2.5 years, we have been making our way through the wilderness, but we have not yet built that bridge that will take us from what was to what will be. And it is time for us to begin building it. To see what we bring with us, whence we came, to make clear plans for how we want to construct that bridge, and to survey what it is that we are crossing to. I'm using the pronoun we because we are in this together, and because you are not alone. But the work of this bridge belongs to you, the collective you. And this bridge is the work of intentional transition. A while ago, someone asked me what my vision is for the future of the church. And I had to tell them I have one. The future of this church isn't about what I want for all of you. It's about what you want for all of you. You have formed a transition team with Scott England, Courtney and Matt Griggs, Ann Marchin, Joe Robertson, Patricia Jonitz, and Brian Doyle as the board representative. They are considering the big picture of this transition. And they will be your resource as you navigate it, to turn to when things feel weird or something's changed and you don't know what to make of it. And the board is involved in this work. And there are roles for the committees and the teams in all of this as well. They will be asking for your input, for your ideas, for your dreams. Transition is about you and your church. I'm here to facilitate the work, not to do it or to determine its outcome. To build the bridge to what's next, you must engage in deep self-reflection, considering not only your individual self, but the self that is the larger good of everyone who is a part of this church, or who might ever become a part of this church. In the litany this morning, Enfleshed speaks of telling the stories, sharing in the memories, giving thanks for the relationships, understandings, and experiences past that have shaped us to this day. And that is the work that we will begin to undertake at the end of this month. It's spending time wondering about the congregation's history, the ancestors that over a century and more, we're at more than a century and a half now, built 3 buildings, showed resilience when life happened again and again, and continues on through your dedication to this ongoing community. A church continues on, even as its peoples change, and it adapts with patterns and ways of being in response to what happens, just as each of us do individually. So we're going to wonder, what has shaped All Souls since 1868 into who we are now? And then as we move on into the spring, building on to what we learned of the congregation's past, we will consider who we are together as All Souls. How do we define what is at the core of this congregation? Do our current statements, such as our mission statement, our covenant, do they continue to describe All Souls and its purpose and community as it is now? As you might want it to be in 5 or more years? You will do this wondering about the truth of all souls and what the past and the present might be calling all souls to moving forward. In the coming months, the board will ask for your interest in serving on a search committee, which is hard, taxing, and very meaningful work. The search committee represents the congregation in the formal process through the Unitarian Universalist Association to select the next minister. And it is a ton of work, starting with gathering lots of information about the church and from all of you and what qualities you are looking for in your next minister. That work of defining All Souls as it is now will guide the search committee's work, as well as your wonderings about what you want to have the Nature's future look like. They are tasked with recommending to you the minister who will best lead the congregation into the future all of you imagine. Now, many of you know that when I was hired on as a year-to-year contract minister, it was with the possibility that I might be this next settled minister. And we can't know the answer to that yet. Because you're going to help the search committee determine what kind of minister might be best. And I will engage in my own reflection about the future of my ministry and whether what I have to offer and the ways in which I am called to serve will match what the search committee seeks and what All Souls needs. Now, if I were to decide that all of these things do line up, I would submit an application to the search committee this fall to be considered as an inside candidate. There are special rules for when someone already involved in the church applies to become the settled minister. The inside candidate must be fully considered prior to opening up the national search. But I'm not going to tell you whether I apply, because the search committee needs to consider any inside candidate application carefully to wonder whether that minister is the right match to lead into the future of All Souls with an expectation of staying more than a few years. Because if I announced that I'd applied, you would all know how the search committee handled the application. And knowing that y'all tend to have strong opinions, it might induce conflict or resentment if their decision doesn't match what you hoped. So we're just going to assume that my ministry here will end no later than the end of June 2026, unless the search committee were to announce that I am the candidate they recommend, on whom the congregation will vote. You heard me right. The members of All Souls will vote on who will be the next settled minister, because a settled minister is called by the congregation as a whole. You want to know that most ministers would not accept such a call unless the vote is 95% or higher. 90% might work, and anything below that simply isn't enough support to begin a successful ministry. A national search would begin in early January 2026, and it is a long and expensive process of Zoom interviews, secret multi-day meetings with 3 pre-candidates that only the search committee knows about, the announcement of the one selected candidate, a week of the candidate being here, preaching and meeting all of you, culminating in the vote. Usually the week with the candidate and vote happen in early May 2026. And the new settled minister is likely to start in August 2026. So that's the layout. That's what we're looking at. Now, transition is a time to not only be immersed in uncertainty, but to live into it. It's a time to release what has been and to reach into what's next. And to do that, there will be change. Because as we celebrate Kendall retiring, the way that the church has been under her ministry will inherently end. Growing into change now opens our hearts to what will come and the new ways and patterns that will emerge under a newly settled minister. So between that, we're in that in-between transition time, right? Growing into change takes courage and self-reflection. It is spiritual work, writing our hearts to the reality around us. And that is about ever expanding our sense of love, ever expanding our sense of care, opening our hearts even when we are uncomfortable or unsettled about the changes that are happening. Because I found when I refuse to bend, I feel myself banging up change that I resist. And I get harder and harder until something breaks. Sometimes something breaks inside of me. Sometimes I break relationships with others that I didn't mean to. And every now and then, that hardness becomes carelessness or anger, and I end up breaking something a little more real. I remember as a child being angry and frustrated, and while I have no idea why I felt that way, I cannot forget the way in which my Lego creation smashed against the wall when I threw it. The pieces flying through the air around the room, and me sobbing that I had just destroyed my creation. What damage can I prevent by opening my heart instead of hardening it? By being curious instead of reactive. Oh, it's challenging to do this. I'm very much still working on bringing the spirit of curiosity with me every day. And I don't consistently succeed, but I try. I remind myself, and I make amends. This is what Unitarian Universalism calls us to do, why it is a faith that we practice. Because each one of us has to practice again and again opening our heart. Because our faith asks us to move ever closer to love, to the ways of being that expand far beyond ourselves and that embrace the needs of those around us. A love that asks us how we can change in our every action, always more loving. And as we are always striving to be more loving, we might be able to adapt to changes with greater ease. Because rarely are there changes simply for the sake of being different. The world changes because of the needs of people. Congregations inherently change as they welcome in new people who will never be exactly like the people who have already been a part of the community. And love calls us to change in order to be more welcoming, more caring as a congregation. A few weeks ago, the signs for the bathrooms changed to say all gender. Yes, congregational leaders might have been more intentional about how that happened, and there are apologies. But trans non-binary, and gender non-conforming members and children of this church have been asking the advocates, and even before the advocates, for years. And ask me sometime about the advocates. I'd love to tell you about them, and I don't have room in this sermon. Years of asking to be fully included in the life of the church through the bathroom signs, and years of no one making the change, even after submitting proposals. I don't want you to blame your leaders for their lack of response. There has been so much negative political discourse around who should use which bathroom, and in truth, without knowing the experiences of trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming folks when it comes to bathrooms, it can be difficult to understand why this is so important. Did you know that it is essentially illegal for a trans person to use a gendered public restroom in Kansas? It's illegal. Because by law, you must use the bathroom that corresponds to your gender assigned at birth. But if you don't look like that gender anymore, it's dangerous to go into that bathroom. So there's literally nowhere to pee. That's an important thing to take care of, right? And unless you know a trans person very well, you wouldn't understand the truth of this reality. When we make all of our bathrooms all gender, it strongly signals that our community is explicitly making a place for our trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming members and children. It says that we want you to feel completely comfortable here, being your full, true self. Instead of setting aside the one thing that might be okay for you to use, it says that you matter, and we are willing to change to include you fully in our community. So we move toward love. We move toward inclusion. And the advocates decided to become more inclusive by changing the bathroom signs. And this change, it's difficult. On some level, it does affect everyone, as we're forced to think about our own bathroom usage and comfort. And it's upon us as people of faith to move toward love, to open our hearts to change, and to decide how we as individuals can best navigate that change. There are 3 one-toilet restrooms in the building. One is in between the 2 multi-stall restrooms on this floor. It's designed for accessibility and also has a changing table. And there are 2 more, 1 room, no stalls, just 1 room bathrooms downstairs. If you take the elevator, turn right, and you'll find one just down the hall a bit across from Melanie's office, and the other one's around the first corner. The second one of these around the corner is the one that's designed for accessibility. You will also see a sign on one of the multi-stall bathrooms that indicates that it contains a urinal. The other only has stalls, so make your own decisions and help others navigate the change based on this information. Permanent signage demonstrating the plumbing configuration will be installed in the coming weeks. Signs with toilets and/or urinals on them have become a standard practice for all gendered bathrooms, so that you can see that sign and say, that has the plumbing I'm looking for, or that has the plumbing that I'd rather avoid. And now it is reflected in the draft facilities committee minutes from this week that there is consensus about continuing with the new bathroom signage. We are moving toward love. That will consistently be part of our transitional work. Moving toward love and how we are together as a church. Moving toward love in the ways that we communicate and make decisions together. Moving toward love of who we can be as all souls, both with one another and out in the community. And I ask you, please come to the meetings where we do the work of transition. Starting after the service on January 26th, when we're going to have a meal for everybody and start asking you to tell your stories of your time here. Participate in the wondering and the planning so that we truly decide together the future of All Souls as a whole congregation. All Souls is your church, and you are part of how decisions are made. May we enter this intentional transition with open minds, helping hands, and loving hearts, just like we teach our children. Change is difficult, and it brings up strong emotions. So let us hold those emotions sacred and choose to move toward love. Only through love will we build the bridge to what's next. May it be so. Please rise in whatever way you may to join in singing Fire of Commitment.
High
we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And before our closing words, I'm going to remind you that the fire is ready for all of us to gather on the patio for our tradition based in Scandinavian tradition of burning a straw goat. We even have our own slightly irreverent song to sing badly together. So grab your coats if you want them, head outside right after the service, and then lunch, and for those who want to attend the town hall with the board, that will be here. In closing, may your mind stay curious. May your hands freely give. May your heart ever open, moving closer to love.